Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something that, let's be honest, probably gives you a little spike of anxiety just thinking about it. High-stakes professional conversations. You know the exact moments we're talking about, right? Sweaty palms, your heart racing, and suddenly, a massive gotcha question is just hanging there in the air. Well, we're going to break down the art of mastering these challenging dialogues straight from the source material so you can walk into your next big meeting armed with absolute confidence and a bulletproof strategy.
Okay, let's dive into this. What is your biggest weakness? Oh man, just hearing those words out loud probably makes your heart rate tick up a little bit, doesn't it? For decades, this has basically felt like the ultimate interview trap. You're sitting there sweating, thinking, do I give one of those fake humble brag answers? I just work way too hard and care too much. Please, definitely do not do that. Or do I confess my deepest, darkest flaws and just completely ruin my chances right here? It's universally panic-inducing. But let's look at what the research actually reveals about what's going on across the table.
Because here is the paradigm shift you absolutely need to make today. It is not a trap. The hidden secret of these interviews, and this is crucial, is that the people asking these questions aren't actually looking for perfection. They know you're human. What they're doing is using these challenging prompts as a test of your honesty, your self-awareness, and your resilience. They want to see exactly how you handle adversity, and if you can address your own shortcomings with clarity and confidence. The second you realize they're testing your reaction rather than demanding flawlessness, you completely flip the power dynamic of the whole conversation.
So how do we actually demonstrate that self-awareness? Well, that brings us right to Section 1, the art of reframing weaknesses and failures.
To survive these questions, we have to fundamentally shift our mindset. We have to stop viewing our flaws as these permanent, static traits just tattooed on our foreheads. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. Take a look at this comparison. On one side, we have a panic-driven answer like, I'm bad at time management. That's a total dead end. It basically just says, hey, I have a problem and I'm just living with it. But contrast that with a structured, growth-oriented response. I used to struggle with prioritization, but I've developed systems to manage deadlines more effectively. See the difference there? You're still being completely honest about the weakness, but you've transformed what looks like a negative into this compelling story of forward momentum and accountability.
Now, when it comes to talking about actual past failures, like, projects that tanked or goals you missed, the source material gives us this exact, incredibly logical progression. If you follow this three-step framework, it's honestly nearly impossible to sound defensive. Step 1. Briefly explain the situation. Just keep it factual, don't linger on all the drama. Step 2. Take responsibility. Own your part in the failure without making excuses. And step 3, which is by far the most critical, emphasize what you learned and how you've improved since. This specific structure takes a past failure and literally turns it into a masterclass on your personal evolution.
This naturally leads us into Section 2, the vocabulary of success, focusing specifically on positive framing. Sometimes the weakness they bring up is just a hard, unchangeable fact on your resume. Maybe it's a noticeably low GMAT score, or a big gap in your career history. You can't just hide those things. But when you introduce these topics using specific reflection phrases like, looking back, I realized, or that experience taught me, you instantly demonstrate this deep, hard-earned insight to the person interviewing you. You're showing them that you don't just passively experience setbacks, right? You process them, you analyze them, and you extract real value from them. It proves a level of professional maturity that organizations just value so highly.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer power of what the source calls growth mindset language. Words carry so much weight. Phrases like, I've worked hard to improve, or I'm continuing to develop, carry immense power. They actively signal to the listener that you are not just some finished product who's stubbornly stuck in their ways. Instead, these exact phrases scream adaptability. They scream motivation. Remember, companies aren't just hiring who you are today. They are investing in who you are going to become tomorrow. Using this specific vocabulary proves to them that your trajectory is pointed sharply upwards.
Of course, having the right words is really only half the battle. Let's move to Section 3, Grace Under Pressure, and talk about physical delivery.
Because here is the harsh truth. If you deliver a completely brilliant answer, but you are visibly panicking while you say it, the message gets completely lost. So first things first, take a moment to think before answering. Yes, I know, in an interview setting, 3 seconds of silence feels like 3 agonizing hours. But taking a deliberate pause shows immense measured confidence. It shows you're thoughtful. Second, maintain a steady tone. Controlling your pitch and the speed of your voice is quite literally just as crucial as the vocabulary you're using. A steady, unhurried voice physically communicates the exact resilience they're looking for.
But even with absolutely perfect preparation, let's be real for a second, sometimes you just get a question out of left field that completely throws you off balance. You might suddenly feel totally backed into a corner. When that happens, I want you to deploy this exact damage control expression as your emergency ripcord. That was a challenging period, but it helped me grow professionally. Memorize this phrase. Write it down. It honestly acknowledges the difficulty without wallowing in it, it instantly neutralizes the tension in the room, and it gives you a second to regain your footing so you can safely pivot right back to your strengths.
All right, let's move to our final section, your interview homework. Because as we all know, practice makes perfect.
Look, you can't just watch this explainer and expect to be an unshakable expert by tomorrow morning. Engaging in rapid-fire questioning with a peer builds muscle memory and a kind of innate confidence you simply cannot get just by reading notes. So the crucial point is that you need to put this into practice right now. I'm turning you from a passive listener into an active participant. Before your next big interview, I want you to prepare an answer focusing on 3 things. First, identify a clear, honest weakness. Second, articulate exactly how you're actively addressing it. And third, state what tangible progress you've made. Write it down, say it out loud, and refine it until the delivery feels absolutely effortless.
Because by doing that preparation, you are completely rewriting the narrative of your own career history. You stop hiding from your flaws and you actually start leveraging them. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to ponder today. How will you turn your next professional failure into your greatest interview asset? Because as we've explored throughout this entire explainer, these obstacles aren't traps. They are the exact raw material you need to prove your ultimate worth. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep practicing, keep reframing, and I will see you in the next one.